Did you know that the Mediterranean style eating pattern can be simple, delicious, and satisfying? Well, here with me today is Hillary Ayers, Family and Consumer Science Agent, to tell us all about it. Welcome, Hillary.
Thanks, Jana.
So tell us about the Mediterranean diet and how can we incorporate these foods into what we eat daily?
Right, well, just like it says, it can be simple. It doesn't have to be anything complicated.
Okay.
It is delicious. So you're using different things to flavor the food with, especially herbs and spices,
okay,
to give it that flavor that you want, and it is satisfying. So the Mediterranean diet especially incorporates fruits, vegetables, and whole grains, which help to keep you full longer.
Okay, and so can you give us a little bit of history of why it's called the Mediterranean diet? Can you explain to us about that?
Yeah, so it's called the Mediterranean diet because, again, it's based off of those countries that border the Mediterranean Sea and their typical eating pattern.
Right.
So think about places like Greece and Italy and incorporating those foods in your diet.
Okay, makes sense. And so if we're not really used to eating the Mediterranean way or Mediterranean foods, we have our typical foods that we like. Is there any possible way that we could transform those foods, do some simple swaps with foods that would be incorporated in the Mediterranean diet?
Absolutely. It's really easy to make those simple swaps. So for example, think about a hamburger or a cheeseburger. You're using, beef or those cuts of meat that are typically higher in fats.
Right.
And, one thing that you can do is you can swap it with seafood, which is recommended to eat seafood with the Mediterranean eating style pattern.
Interesting.
So, you can take, instead of a hamburger, make a salmon burger.
Yum.
And so that's what I'm going to be making for you today.
Awesome. I was just going to say, it looks like we're going to try to do something today and make a salmon burger. So I'm actually excited because I love salmon. So let's get right into it if you're ready.
All right, I'm ready.
Okay.
So of course I already have my ingredients measured out for us here.
Okay.
The first step is you're going to take your soy sauce, your ginger, your green onions.
Now the ginger, is that like a paste? Because it looks like it's
Yes.
pretty ground up.
So
Okay.
in this particular instance, I'm using a paste. However, you can use whole ginger and
Okay.
chop it up.
Okay.
Whatever is best for you. I'm using ground ginger because it's something that I usually have in my pantry.
Gotcha.
So again, whatever you have on hand. It's not necessary to go out to the store and buy something extra.
Okay, makes sense.
Then I'm gonna take my sriracha.
Add a little bit of heat to it.
Oh yes, some more of that flavor profile as we talk about. And then I'm going to add my salmon.
Okay.
Now, when you mix it, you can use a food processor if you
Okay.
like. However, I have found with this particular recipe, it's just really easy to use a spoon. You don't necessarily have to use the processor if you want.
All right.
For this particular recipe, I also used canned salmon
Okay.
because at the time, the canned salmon was cheaper and more affordable.
Okay.
Now, if you like to buy, salmon from the seafood counter at your local grocery store, you can definitely do that. You just want to be sure that you remove the skin and the bones when you're making this particular recipe.
And I think it's a really good point to make that it can be economical, because sometimes that's the dilemma of trying to eat healthier foods is sometimes the expense. So that's a good point to make.
Eating healthy does not need to be overly expensive. Once you've mixed those ingredients together, that's when we're going to add our egg.
Okay. So we're just adding one egg.
One egg, and we're gonna add those breadcrumbs.
Ooh, it smells good already.
Yes, and then we're gonna mix that together again. So the egg in this recipe is acting as that binding agent. So it's going to help keep the burger once it's formed together.
Okay, makes sense.
So I'm just, again, mixing it really well.
Okay.
Making sure flavor.
Absolutely.
All right, so this is all mixed together now.
Okay.
So what I am gonna do, if you're at home and you'd like to use your bare hands, that's fine. But in this instance, I am going to put on gloves.
Okay. Make sure that we're being food safe.
Exactly. Be sure that you wash your hands as well. And then I'm just gonna turn this on really quickly. And then what I'm gonna do after I, turn the heat on my oven, I'm going to pour in a little bit of oil.
Okay. And that's just to brown the patties.
That's just to help brown the patties, exactly.
Okay.
So we're gonna let that get a little bit heated. So while that's heating up, I'm going to go ahead and I'm gonna start to form my patties.
Okay.
This recipe will make about 4 salmon burgers for a family.
Okay.
So you wanna keep that in mind. So you just take it and you form a nice little patty in your hand.
And that's a pretty good size in your palm, so.
Yeah, so you can see that there. You can see the green onions throughout, so
Yep.
you're getting that in there.
Okay.
And then I'm just going to
Let that heat up a little more.
let that heat up a little bit more.
Okay.
I can see that it's starting to get hot, so I'm gonna place that first burger there.
Okay. And it's almost like a perfect portion size, you know, as you use your palm
Exactly.
to measure with. So that's good, but we don't need to add anything extra to scoop and then measure
Yeah,
with.
no, very easy just to use your hands. Again,
Okay.
you do not have to wear gloves if you do not like.
Just make sure you wash your hands really, really good.
Yes.
Okay. Point. Point.
And again, you know, what I like about this recipe too is, say you don't like green onions. Maybe you'd like to add something else in there. You can add additional things to these burgers.
Nice.
So maybe you are somebody who wants to add mushrooms.
Right.
Add those mushrooms.
Right.
Maybe instead of green onions, you want red onions
Right,
or those
right.
sweet onions.
So you can, you know, switch out the different spices to your liking.
Exactly. So now they'll cook for
Oh, I hear
about,
'em.
yes, sizzling. You just cook them for 5 minutes.
Okay.
So you want to be sure to cook for, you know, 2.5 minutes and flip them, and then they'll be done in a nice golden brown. And then of course this will taste great, you know, with an apple slaw that you've made.
Okay.
Or, you know, a salad on the side.
Okay.
You can serve it on a 100% whole grain bun if you like.
Okay. I was
Eat
just
it
going to say,
without-
could you eat it with a bun since it's a salmon burger? Could you eat it?
Absolutely,
without
yes.
a bun? Okay.
Certainly can. Eat it without a bun, you know, serve it on top of a bed of greens.
Awesome.
Again, it's all about having a flavor profile that you like.
Wow, it's starting to smell even more delicious than it was in the bowl. So not a lot of ingredients, seems simple enough that I can do. Hopefully our viewers at home can do as well. So thank you so very much for sharing this recipe and telling us all about the Mediterranean diet.
Thanks for having me.
Now you know how healthy the Mediterranean diet can be. Instead of making beef burgers, we can now have salmon burgers.